Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound. While I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Shopify. Starting a business is filled with a lot of what-ifs. What if I fail? What if nobody listens to the podcast? What if nobody cares? It can definitely be hard to get over that doubt and uncertainty, but making that leap was one of the best things I've ever done, and it's great to know that I'm not alone with a business partner like Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Heinz and Mattel to brands just getting started. And I'm telling you, their tools really do feel like you have a business partner. They have hundreds of ready-to-use templates to help build a beautiful online store that matches your brand. You can also get the word out like you have an entire marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And if you get stuck, Shopify is always there to help with their award-winning 24/7 customer service. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/justice. Go to shopify.com/justice. That's shopify.com/justice. Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised. My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the case of Charlie Allen Jr., also known as Neo Babson Maximus. On a Thursday in 2007, near the start of the fall semester of his senior year at UMass Dartmouth, Charlie Allen Jr.'s day begins really as nothing out of the ordinary. He plays tennis with a friend, they grab some food, and part ways. The plan was to meet a few hours later to go to a party, and then Charlie disappears. This is the case of Charlie Allen Jr. Charlie was born in 1985 to his parents Anne and Charles Allen. While he was their first child, he wouldn't be their only one for long. 15 months later, his sister Brittany was born, followed by his youngest sister Persephone. They grew up mostly in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and spent their summers in Gloucester. As Charlie got older, he tried out a ton of different sports and hobbies, but video games and tennis seemed to be what stuck. He eventually tried to make them both into careers, and he excels at both. But it does seem that video games are what he's ultimately known for. Now, it seems that Charlie played on both consoles and PC, and eventually adopted the name Neo in the gaming world as he climbed the ranks of the best Half-Life and Half-Life Counter-Strike players in the world. Charlie takes this really seriously. He's traveling to compete and quickly becomes well known in the gaming community. He's even featured in the news for this several times as a teenager. And I just want to say that professional gaming really isn't anything to scoff at. Even back in the early 2000s when professional gaming wasn't as big, you could still make thousands of dollars in these gaming competitions and turn it into a full-time career. For example, when Charlie competed in the Cyber Athlete Professional League World Championship in January 2002, his team could have won $50,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $100,000 for one competition. Nowadays, it's even easier with streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube, where people are making millions of dollars a year by just playing video games. Now, it does seem like Charlie played with a few different gaming teams and formed a few of his own. But his Half-Life Counter-Strike team, Domain of Pain, was ranked number 3 in the US in online and local tournament play, with Charlie being considered the best not just in the nation, but in the world for Half-Life, and one of the top for Counter-Strike specifically. So when Charlie's winning competitions, traveling, and being featured in the news for playing video games, I could absolutely see why he would consider this a viable career path. And really why it began to consume his life. In reporting by the Haverhill Gazette, Charlie explains that during his freshman year in high school, his time was essentially consumed by Half-Life. He became very pale, was skipping meals, and staying up late to get his gaming hours in. To be completely honest, this sounds like a lot of people I met who just loved playing a certain video game or video games in general. But I think it's important to consider that in this case, at some point in high school, Charlie is diagnosed with both bipolar and manic depression according to his family. So this factor does make it harder for me to interpret Charlie's deep dive into the gaming world. But we do know that his parents get him help for this, he finds a therapist, and medication that works for him. And while he does get, of course, swept up in this excitement of kind of being this teenage video game celebrity, he doesn't let it go to his head and derail his entire life. He graduates from Haverhill High School in 2003 and enrolls at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, choosing psychology as his major. He does well. So well, he considers applying for medical school. And as he gets through his first few years of his studies, his love of video games doesn't exactly wane, but he does begin to heavily focus on tennis. Just like with video games, Charlie wants to be the best, and he does qualify for his tennis team at UMass Dartmouth. Charlie is really all in on this. In the summer of 2007, between his junior and senior year, he even changed his name in hopes of distinguishing himself in the tennis world. His new legal name is Neo Babson Maximus. Neo is, of course, his gaming name, and inspired by the main character in the movie The Matrix. Babson's actually his mother's maiden name, and Maximus was inspired by the main character in the movie Gladiator. While this is, of course, a huge legal change, Charlie doesn't really tell a lot of people about this, and it's not like he's trying to take on a new identity in his everyday life. Like I said, it's more of a way to have a unique name in the tennis world, and I have to imagine the gaming world as well. Charlie's father says this is who his son is. When Charlie becomes passionate about something or he has a goal, he's laser focused to make it happen. Just as video games consumed him in high school, in college his life now seems to revolve more around tennis. He was even thinking of traveling to get a higher level of training than what was offered at his university. But as Charlie's senior year at UMass Dartmouth commenced, his life suddenly went down a very different path. A few weeks after the semester begins, on Thursday, October 11th, 2007, Charlie seems to be having a normal day. At 2 p.m., he meets up with a friend named Mason, and they practice playing tennis for about 2 hours. Mason says he didn't really notice anything out of the ordinary, and it seemed like a great practice, and really just a great day in general. Now, Charlie actually had 2 sets of plans that night. He was going to meet up with his sister Brittany for a few drinks, but he was especially excited because a member of the women's UMass Dartmouth tennis team invited him to a party that night as well. Charlie invites Mason to come along too, so that was the plan. They grab dinner at the campus cafeteria and then part ways to get ready for the party. Mason heads home and assumes Charlie does the same. Neither of them live on campus, so it's going to take some time for travel. Mason's about 30 minutes away, but Charlie's closer, about 15 minutes away in New Bedford. It's basically the next town over to the east. But before they could meet back up on campus at 8:30 to go to the party together as planned, Charlie's sister Brittany notices something odd. It looks like Charlie deleted his entire Facebook page. And this is a huge thing for Brittany. She says that this is mainly how she and Charlie communicated. So when she went to go send her brother a message and saw that his entire page was gone, she was very confused and immediately called him. At first, the conversation seemed pretty normal. Brittany asks what he's up to, and Charlie says that he's walking, thinking about going to a party. But when Brittany asks him why he deleted his Facebook account, the tone of everything kind of shifts. In her interview with Disappeared, she says that in this moment when she asks about the Facebook account, she can just hear his heart dropping. And then all of a sudden he gets really scared. He says he has no idea what happened to his Facebook account. Brittany says that at this point, it's clear that Charlie becomes extremely panicked. He's talking really fast and saying that very important people were after him. He doesn't give a lot of detail, but he does say that he sent some emails to these important people and he isn't safe and neither is Brittany. Now, Brittany's actually nearby in Rhode Island attending college herself, and Charlie tells her that she needs to leave school immediately and go home to their father so he can protect her. Before Charlie ends the conversation, he says something very cryptic. Something that has left people stumped in this case for nearly 2 decades now. He says all the answers are in the periodic table of elements. Obviously, Brittany is extremely concerned and immediately calls her father and Charlie's father. At this point, she's crying. She has no idea what's going on, but Charlie is scaring her. But it turns out that Charlie had already called both of his parents. And unfortunately, both missed his call. But Charlie did leave them voicemails. In both the voicemail to his mom and to his dad, it sounds like Charlie is running. In the message for his dad, he discusses going south to Florida and then entering Mexico. But in the message he left for his mom, he talks about going to Texas. He also mentions that he needs to be loved more, and that he felt isolated before the voicemail ends abruptly. So, of course, his parents and his sister try to call Charlie back, but his phone appeared to be turned off and was going straight to voicemail. Meanwhile, by the time 8:30 p.m. rolls around, Charlie's friend Mason is waiting in the parking lot on campus for him. He waits for about 45 minutes, trying to call Charlie as well, but only getting his voicemail. Eventually, he just leaves, figuring Charlie went to the party without him. When Charlie's family still can't get in touch with him the following day, they report him missing. Now, from what I could find, there doesn't really appear to be any search for Charlie early on. It's kind of a be on the lookout type of situation versus a full-on search. But by Sunday, so 3 days after Charlie goes missing, the Dartmouth police get a call about a backpack found at a nearby home on Slocum Road. After going through the contents, they confirm that it is Charlie's backpack. Of course, this does give us some clues, though. This area is about 3 miles east of campus, and in between campus and Charlie's home in New Bedford. This really does seem to be what amps up the investigation. Charlie isn't just a 22-year-old with senioritis trying to skip a few classes. He was an overachiever who was considering medical school. And finding his backpack abandoned on a possible route home was a huge red flag that something could be seriously wrong. They act on this immediately and bring in dogs in hopes of tracking Charlie's scent, but they don't find anything. Now, once Charlie's parents realized that he'd gone missing, they called the school to ask them to look for his blue 1999 Ford Expedition, because he'd been staying in it. And they end up finding it parked on campus the same day that they find the backpack. If you watch the episode of Disappeared about Charlie's case, they really dramatize this part. They act like it's a big shock that Charlie may have been sleeping in his car, and they even kind of leave the viewer wondering who may have been sleeping in his vehicle. But according to an interview Charlie's father gave to Tamara Sikarsik with WJAR News in 2022, Charlie's parents knew he was staying in his car. It's never explained in the show or in any reporting that I could find as to why Charlie was staying in his car, but it's clear through quotes that his parents were aware of this fact. Either way, wherever Charlie was headed, for some reason, he decided to go on foot. At this point, his disappearance feels like it's getting stranger by the minute. And just the next day, investigators would make another major discovery about Charlie's whereabouts after he last spoke with his family. When Detective Robert Levinson from the Dartmouth PD is back in the office on Monday, he's discussing Charlie's case with another officer, when that officer suggests that Charlie sounds a lot like a suspect he was looking for in another case. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
At about 3 a.m. on Friday the 12th, so really just hours after Charlie speaks with his sister and leaves his parents those voicemails, a woman named Jean, who lives a few miles south of campus, calls the police to tell them that a shirtless man just broke into her home through a second-story window. And that man did match Charlie's description. Now, the woman explains that this man wasn't really threatening. He actually just seemed super confused. He kind of just keeps saying, "Excuse me, ma'am, I was just leaving. I was looking for my friend, Mason." Then he just leaves out the same window and runs into the nearby woods. Overall, Jean described him as being very polite. Now, between this guy just looking like Charlie, his clothing matching the description of when he was last seen, and saying he was looking for his friend Mason, the same name of the friend Charlie actually had plans with that night, Detective Levinson is sure that Charlie is the man who broke into Jean's home. And this is only further solidified when 3 days later, on October 18th, Charlie's sneakers are found in the woods nearby. This launches a massive search for Charlie. I mean, at this point, he has no shirt and no shoes. They assume he couldn't have gotten far. They bring in search teams, aerial support, but they don't find Charlie or anything else they believe belonged to him. After physically searching for Charlie, they of course want to search his laptop. He spent so much of his life online. He was talking about these emails he sent to these very important people. Surely there was something there. But his history was deleted, as were all his recent emails. Basically, everything from about a week before Charlie went missing is just gone. So if Charlie did send emails to important people that put his life in danger, they were never recovered from his computer. And it's clear that whatever was on that computer or in his email, Charlie or someone didn't want people to see. Now, despite finding next to nothing on this laptop, they somehow were able to find one of the last websites that Charlie looked at, and that was for the University of Texas, which would obviously correlate with the voicemail that he left his mom. But when they dug into it, they found that Charlie never applied to the university, and they didn't find anything else related to possibly moving to Texas or anywhere else. I think his sister Brittany really put it best. Charlie was someone who had an entire life online, on that computer, and they found nothing. Like I said earlier, Charlie's disappearance feels like it's getting increasingly odd with each discovery. His car being left on campus, his backpack found to the east, and now we know that Charlie was also to the south at this woman's home looking for his friend Mason, who lives 30 minutes away. And Mason does confirm that Charlie knew where he lived. So this type of mistake, if it was a mistake, was extremely concerning and confusing to everyone. Of course, Charlie's loved ones and investigators are also concerned about his mental health. Not long before classes started, Charlie was briefly hospitalized for bipolar, and ultimately got off his medication completely. Now, his family did support him through this. His sister Brittany explained that when Charlie was first put on medication in high school, he really just didn't like how numb it made him feel. She said he wasn't happy or sad. And she remembers an incident where she was hysterical and she leaned on Charlie for support. And in turn, Charlie said that he was jealous that she could just feel intense emotions like that. When he finally got off his medication, he told Brittany that he didn't feel like he was alive before. But now it feels like he's living for the first time. This probably goes without saying, but I'm not here to give medical advice or do anything but try to understand Charlie's mindset as it may relate to his disappearance. And I obviously think this could be extremely relevant, as do the authorities and his family. While they were with Charlie through a lot of his ups and downs, they'd never seen him act like this. He'd never just disappeared, he'd never discussed running from people, and he'd never lost touch with reality. So while Charlie did struggle with his mental health, an incident like this just has never happened before. His mom, Anne, adds to this. She says that she saw Charlie a few days before he went missing, and she can usually tell when he's escalating into a manic state. He'd begin talking faster, his ideas would get more grand, but she didn't see any indication of that at all, and his friend Mason says the same. He'd seen Charlie at least twice a week and didn't know that he even suffered from any mental health-related issues. And I do really want to emphasize that here, because Charlie's sister Brittany, the one he was extremely close with before going missing, has discussed this in several interviews. Basically, just like any other person in the world, Charlie was much more complex than what he was diagnosed with. And she emphasizes how she'd never seen behavior like this in her brother before. And both she and their mother Anne believe that Charlie was not hallucinating when he said someone was after him. Could Charlie have suffered a major mental break? Absolutely. It's entirely possible. I think we all know that someone that you think could be perfectly fine could be struggling greatly with their mental health without you ever knowing it. I'm not denying that. But his loved one's observations are valid and worth considering. Of course, investigators take all of this into consideration. Charlie changing his name, stopping his medication, his hospital stay, and now the factors of his disappearance. They do look into the possibility that someone may have actually been after him, but they didn't find any evidence of that. He was a young, well-liked college student with no enemies outside of the people he fought against online in video games, which, yes, is a theory I looked into in Charlie's case. While I was scouring his family's Facebook page for him, I found just one little comment about a gamer who was apparently caught cheating in Half-Life. After that, they went to the US shortly before Charlie went missing. Again, just a one-off comment that I tried to explore. I dug deep trying to get more information on this, and I did find some gamers who were caught cheating in Half-Life around this time, but none that led me back to Charlie. This is all that really happens in the first year that Charlie goes missing. In October 2008, the weekend leading up to the 1-year mark of him being gone, there was another massive search for Charlie around UMass Dartmouth. Volunteers even prepped the day before for a line search across 4 square miles around the university. It also encompassed both where his shoes and his backpack were found. Over 200 volunteers, along with officials from the Bristol County Sheriff's Office, the Red Cross, and 4 PI agencies aided in this search. They do end up finding bones. And for about 24 hours, Charlie's family is put through absolute anguish as they wait to find out if they were Charlie's. In the end, they were just deer bones. And while this search didn't produce anything of value for Charlie's case, it did leave his family relieved. It meant that Charlie could still be out there alive somewhere. And this hope is only amplified when, about a year later, a man in New Bedford calls police to report that a man matching Charlie's description knocked on his door at about 4 a.m. He was asking for help getting back to SMU. Now, that stands for Southeastern Massachusetts University, which is what UMass Dartmouth used to be called over a decade prior to Charlie attending. But the man who answered the door assumes that this is just some type of trick. Maybe Charlie has come to the door to entice him to come outside, or perhaps to come inside his home for some type of invasion. So he takes the safe route, he closes the door, and calls police. And by the time the police get there, the man is gone. Now, when all this was happening, this man or his wife who was there for this incident had never heard of Charlie's case before. But once they saw a picture of Charlie, they are sure that that is the young man who was at their door that night. But officially, that's never been confirmed. And Charlie's case sits for a long time. Around 2018, there was another search for Charlie after some land around campus became more accessible. But he wasn't there either. A few years later in 2021, a partial human skull was found on Dartmouth Beach. Someone was just walking by and saw it in the sand. The medical examiner said that it likely belonged to a young male, but testing wasn't able to confirm or rule out that it belongs to Charlie. Then the year after, in June 2022, Charlie's mom, Anne, passed away, never knowing what happened to her son. In the end, Charlie's cell phone, keys, and wallet have never been recovered, and his accounts were never accessed after he went missing. Charlie's dad even kept his phone and bank accounts active for years, hoping one day he'd see some activity. Investigators say that there is no video, no witnesses, and no evidence of foul play in this case. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse, so I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. So what happened to Charlie Allen Jr.? You guys, this is another one of those cases where it feels like almost anything could have happened. But let's analyze what we have to work with. I think a good place to start is with Charlie's own words. What he said to Brittany in that last conversation. That all the answers were in the periodic table of elements. This could mean so many things. Was it because Charlie was a major in psychology with plans to go on to get his doctorate? Could he be pointing to some chemical composition, pointing to his mental health, pointing to some type of medication? or the medication that he was no longer on. That's one aspect. But some have also pointed to the video game Half-Life for answers. They say that it's possible Charlie confused the video game with reality. And he felt he may have been the doctor, the scientist from the game who was being hunted by government authorities and aliens. So let's talk about the game for a second. Half-Life first came out in 1998. It's a first-person shooter that centers around the story of Gordon Freeman. He's a scientist who's trying to escape a research facility after it's infiltrated by aliens. And the reason Mr. Freeman is now fighting off all these aliens is because of his own experiment. Basically, he uses a magic crystal that causes a large explosion and for all these aliens to show up. And now his mission is to stop this invasion. But through the storyline, we also meet a group of Marines who have been dispatched to help clean up this mess, including Mr. Gordon Freeman. Basically, the storyline is a classic government alien cover-up. When you put this lore up against Charlie's disappearance, you can stretch to make it fit. As if maybe Charlie felt some type of connection to Gordon Freeman. Or maybe the storyline just created a type of paranoia in Charlie that he hadn't experienced before. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I would like to present the full picture of this video game for you. Half-Life was huge and is still huge. By 2008, it had sold over 9 million copies. It's won over 50 PC Game of the Year awards, and still boasts some of the best ratings of any video game ever. It has a perfect 100 out of 100 for PC on GameFan, 9.4 out of 10 on GameSpot, 5 out of 5 on Gaming World, 5 out of 5 on AllGame. I think you get it. Basically, Half-Life wasn't just some niche video game that Charlie was interested in. It was a whole phenomenon that took over and forever shaped the gaming scene, and really the creation of video games forever. I also want to encourage you to remember that Charlie, when he was competing in these competitions and just playing competitively in general, he's playing online. That's not going through the same storyline. Regular game storyline play is very different from multiplayer online game. So, do I think that Charlie picked this game in particular to focus on due to anything other than it was extremely popular and fun to play? No, I don't. I will also say that for how good the game is, the plot isn't really unique. I can't tell you how many games I've played that involve a scientist, aliens, and the government. Again, I'm not saying that this game or any other game out there didn't impact Charlie in some way. I've just seen this aspect of his case presented as him being obsessed with this niche video game about aliens and conspiracy. So I wanted to give you an idea of how big it actually was. It's kind of like saying that somebody stole a car because they played Grand Theft Auto. Also, as it relates to the competition aspect of everything, Charlie didn't really appear to be making much money in gaming, if any at all. So any motivation for potential enemy gamers to knock him out of his position seems very far-fetched. I mean, anything's possible. We've seen crazy things in true crime, but this particular angle seems very unlikely. I think the most solid evidence in this case is the trail of items that Charlie left behind. Though, unfortunately, we do not have the exact order of events. We know that on Thursday at about 5 p.m., Charlie finishes eating with Mason on campus. After this, Charlie's sister Brittany calls him, and she says it sounds like he's walking, like he could be outside. After abruptly ending that call with Brittany, Charlie then calls both of his parents and leaves conflicting voicemails. But again, it sounds like Charlie's outside. They say that it sounds like he's running now, like he's out of breath. Into the early hours of the next morning, Charlie's seen about 6 miles south of campus being a very polite criminal, apologizing for breaking into this woman's house, saying he was just looking for his friend Mason. He has no shirt on, and his shoes are found not far from the home a few days later. And his backpack is found a few miles east of his shoes. Like I said, we don't know the order of these events. But when you map it out, it looks like Charlie is maybe trying to get home to New Bedford on foot, crossing through the woods to do so as opposed to taking his vehicle, that he was also, for some reason, staying in. And we also know that Charlie's keys have never been recovered. Did Charlie leave his car on campus because he didn't have his keys? Did someone take them? Did he lose them? I have so many questions. And obviously, so does his family. Brittany admits that most options about what happened to Charlie aren't good. She also holds on to the possibility that maybe someone was after Charlie, like he said. In the end, we don't know what happened to Charlie, but I do hope that you'll honor his family's request to keep your mind open in this case until we do find him. Which brings me right to our call to action. Please share Charlie's case. In her interviews over the years, Brittany has explained that she knows that when people hear that Charlie struggled with his mental health, many will just write him off and assume that he likely left on his own accord and wasn't met with foul play. And again, I'm not saying don't consider that possibility. What I'm saying is that anyone who knows true crime and follows these cases understands that while there are patterns, sometimes these stories can have the most unexpected endings that no one saw coming. So please share, and share with an open mind for Charlie and his family. As a reminder, Charlie Allen Jr., also known as Neo Babson Maximus, was 22 years old when he was last seen on the UMass Dartmouth campus in Massachusetts on the evening of Thursday, October 11th, 2007. He's about 6 feet tall and white, with brown hair and brown eyes. At the time of his disappearance, he weighed approximately 175 to 190 pounds. He was last seen wearing glasses, sneakers, and black sweatpants with a red stripe. He was also carrying a white long-sleeve shirt with the words 2007 US Open on the front. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Massachusetts State Police at 855-627-6583. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and completely free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. The door is open, our emotional support puppies are in the room, but there is a storm. So Popcorn is not our emotional support puppy today. He is very scared. We are his emotional support humans right now. Thank you for helping me in this. But Marley is here. Marley will be 18 in a few weeks, and is pretty deaf. So Marley is here. He does not care about the storm, and he is emotionally supporting us. But let's get into what's going on with me. As you have probably noticed, there was no new episode last week, and I put out a message on social media. Essentially, the family that was being featured, the case that was being featured, hasn't gone very public before, and they weren't ready. They came to me on Thursday and said, "We're not sure. Will you let us think about it?" I said, "Of course, no problem, no pressure. If you don't want it to come out, it's not going to come out." By the end of the day, they told me, "Yeah, we're not ready." And that's fine. That's fine. I said, "No problem. You let me know when you are and we'll put it up." So that's why there's no new episode. These things happen, and I will always pick lessening the pain of a family over creating content. Now, if it's like my dad or Casey Anthony, you're out of luck. But when it's a normal family who I'm working with and is obviously like, we're not concerned about them being involved in any way, and you're not ready for this to go public 100%, then we're not going to go public. You don't even have to tell me why. If you want the episode down, if it hurts, I want it down too. There's so much pain in true crime. I never, ever, ever, ever want to add to that pain. So that's why there's no new episode. Instead of rushing, trying to get something out, I just decided to wait and make it happen for this week. So hopefully that was okay with you guys. That's how that's how my network is always going to be. Families first. People who were involved in these stories first over content. And I will never, ever, ever change. And I don't know why I'm like soapboxy right now. I'm sure like all of you were like, yeah, of course. Like that's what we'd expect. But I just wanted to tell you why there was no new episode and why I feel so strongly about it. I will say I'm recording this in real time for you guys, this after show anyway. And it's been a hard week for me. August 20th marked 4 years since my dad was arrested for Alyssa's murder. And when it popped up in my calendar as Justice for Alyssa Day, I broke. I'll tell you, 23 years later, even after Alyssa being gone, I have my days where I just break and I say, okay, that's enough for today. And I, do whatever. I put on my headphones and dance with my dogs in my kitchen or cook or clean. What I mostly did was clean my house. I like to take my sadness sometimes out on my home, and aggressive scrubbing and sadness. So that's what I did. I took my time to be sad about it, and I made a post on Instagram expressing my feelings. I actually was scrolling through some pictures and I found this image. It's not even my image. Essentially, I was asked for a copy of the first flyer I ever made for Alyssa. I don't know if I even talked about this in season 1. I felt like I tried to talk so little about me. But I made Alyssa's first flyer when I was 12. Nobody was doing it or looking for Alyssa. And this sounds so horrible, but literally, like, we'd had so many lost animals in the past that I was like, I know what to do. I am going to make a flyer. And so that's what I did. And I saw this image of this flyer that I made. I got it from Alyssa's friend Jessica, who, as you might remember, pulled down Alyssa's missing person flyer when she saw it because she didn't want our dad to find her. So I'm staring at this image, devastated over this anniversary. And I just posted about it, about how much it hurt and this journey I've been on that's reflecting a lot more on me instead of Alyssa, which is something I've never really done before. And just how fucked up the idea is that a 12-year-old was making that flyer. So all of that to say, everybody who supported me over there on Instagram with that post, thank you. I got the kindest messages and comments. I love you guys especially when I open up and I'm really vulnerable like that, because I was absolutely bawling my eyes out while I wrote that post. And I love you guys for that, because I can just be raw and real and honest, and I don't have to sit there and think, are people going to think one way about me for this? Are they going to think I'm too emotional or too this or too that, or, not emotional enough? And I can just be myself and feel how I feel and talk about it. And you guys are so awesome. So while it was a tough week and a half or so, thank you, because like always, you were there for me. Now let's talk about Charlie's case. I want to say that the reason I picked this case is because of the gaming aspect, which sounds shallow, but I promise there's more depth to it. As many of you know, I've been gaming since I could independently sit on my own and hold a gaming controller. So I do love gaming and I love video games. But it was really going into Charlie's case and reading, because you guys know, it's not research, but I do look at public reception of cases. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what people are saying, what people are feeling. And people had a lot of misconceptions about gaming when it came to Charlie's case. Specifically, and I went into this in the episode because I do feel like it's relevant. I'm not just saving it for the after show. People really were looking into like the plot of Half-Life and how it might have related to Charlie. And not just that, right? Because like I said, I do think that you can stretch to make that theory fit, you know what I mean? Especially given Charlie's last statement about the periodic table of elements. That argument can certainly be made. But it was more that like people were acting like Half-Life is some like niche indie underground video game, and that even the storyline is like some crazy fringe conspiracy, when again I will say I cannot tell you how many video games there are in this world that involve aliens and the government, and a scientist, of course, because you got to have a scientist in there with aliens and the government. So that's really what I wanted to drive home, is that like Half-Life is a huge game. It's like, again, saying, you know, oh, you game, you play Grand Theft Auto and you stole a car, that must be why. When it's like, no, like, you know, I'm just pulling this number out of my butt, but, you know, most people who game have played Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and, you know, these big staple games. It's really funny. I don't know, this correlation between this must have been it, this is such a fringe video game, and just like the general lack of understanding of the video game world compelled me to speak on this case. And also just to, like I said, bring some kind of like sanity to it all. I do think that the theories about gamers taking out other gamers to get ahead is wild. Again, I don't think that it's completely out of the realm of possibility, as almost nothing is with true crime. It's just not like a common occurrence. And I dare say that there were probably more valuable targets than Charlie that were actually bringing in a lot of money. Yeah, I could go on and on about the video game world, but that's a big reason why I picked it. I just saw a lot of misconceptions about that world and Half-Life and Charlie's gaming, that I wanted to dive in and make more sense of it. Now let's talk about some things I found in my research. One is a happy thing. So in October 2008, when they were doing that big search for Charlie, I found something I'd just never really seen before in a true crime case, and that was that they had emergency veterinarians on site for any of the animals that were helping in the search, so the dogs and the horses specifically. And I'd just never seen that before, and I'm sure it happens all the time and just doesn't get reported on. But if it doesn't, I want to say that I hope it happens all the time and happens more, and that I now am a staunch advocate that anytime that there are animals on site working, trying to search for someone, there should also be a vet. The other thing I found in my research that really made me question my line of thinking and reasoning was this article from 2021. So it comes from Mass Live, and it essentially is slamming the state of Massachusetts because on their website, their government website, despite having 155 people missing at that time, they only had 2 people listed on the website. One was Charlie, and the other was a woman named Patricia. So this article comes out, it slams them, says, hey, there's only 2 people on your website, and they're both white. This isn't okay. So I go back to the Massachusetts government website, and I'm like, oh, for sure, they're going to list, either they're going to list everybody, or it's still just Charlie and Patricia on there. These were my options in my head. And I go there, and no, they take down everybody. They just literally, there's no more list of missing people at all, and they just direct you right to NamUs. And it was interesting to me because you guys know I am a huge believer and practicer. I practice. You guys know what I'm saying. Media pressure. I'm all about media pressure. I've seen it move mountains. We see it all the time. And I'm not changing my opinion on that, or my way of thinking, if you will. But it was interesting to see kind of the opposite outcome, that Massachusetts was like, fine, we'll just have nobody on this website. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think it's interesting to see them respond that way, especially that article came out 3 years ago. So if that were like a knee-jerk reaction and they were like, oh, goodness, we got to pull these down so we can fix this, that would be one thing. But it's clear that they just don't have any plans to list anyone anymore. So I just thought that was interesting, and it made me challenge how I think about media pressure. Now to what I think is becoming like my favorite part of talking about these cases, and that is the discrepancy in media. I found quite a few discrepancies in this case. A lot with the timeline, unfortunately, which does happen. Charlie's case really doesn't have a ton of media out there. The disappeared episode is by far the largest, most in-depth piece. And normally I don't love covering a case where that is what happened. But I could, like, after reading about Charlie and feeling this connection through gaming or whatever, I couldn't just be like, I don't like this source, I'm not going to cover your case. So I will say that a good majority of the information from this episode came from Disappeared, because it was my only option. But of course, I did find discrepancies in dates and times. But the biggest thing for me was this misrepresentation of what happened with the car. If you watch the episode Disappeared, it kind of rolls it into the investigation, and investigators really just like kind of take credit, which I don't think is like their fault. I'm sure it was like editing magic that made that happen. And through, the producer's line of questioning. But essentially it's kind of like, yeah, we found the backpack, and then the same day investigators find the car. Like, they're on this case. When again, the reality is that the second that Charlie went missing, or after he was reported missing, I should say, his parents called the campus to say, we know that Charlie's been staying in his car. Can you go find it? And for whatever reason, it took them many days until they found the backpack to find the car. And again, in the show, they don't really tell us either that Charlie's parents and seemingly family, I have to assume they all know, that Charlie has been staying in his car. It's just kind of glossed over, and that feels like a huge piece of this puzzle to me. Was Charlie really staying in his car? Could he not get into his home? What was that situation? Why stay in your car when you live 15 minutes from campus? There's obviously a bigger story behind that they didn't dig into. I don't know. It's just one of those things. It was interesting. And again, I don't think they were lying, but I do think that they were misleading a bit. Now, I just want to end this segment by saying that talking about mental health is a tricky, tricky topic. And my goal is always to present as many angles as possible, especially what these families think. Like I always say, we didn't know the people at the center of these stories, and they did. My voice is leaving me. Please excuse how I sound. So I wanted to honor that and approach his case with sensitivity, the sensitivity I think it deserves, while also looking at all options. So I hope that came across. I will continue to encourage you to be kind. We never know what's going on in someone's brain. Somebody could be laughing and joking right next to you and be having the worst day of their lives. So yeah, I don't have any huge call to action here other than be kind. You never know what somebody is going through. With that, let's go right into our segment of hope. This one is going to be short but sweet. And this is actually local to me. This is from August 16th, 2024 from abc15.com. I just started reading I started telling you a totally random Arizona news website that is absolutely not that. ABC15 is where I'm getting this from. And it's the title of the article is Missing Teen from Gila River Indian Community Located in Iowa. 20-year-old man taken into custody. Now, I don't want to say this lovely young woman's name because I don't know if she wants it to be said, so I will not. She was 17 and reported missing on August 6th. Now, it does look like the family believed that she was traveling to Iowa to meet with this 20-year-old man that she'd been talking to online. So essentially, the FBI and the Gila River Police Department get together, they go to Iowa, they find her. And I will say his name. So, it says 20-year-old Malachi Reed was taken into custody by the FBI. Officials say charges are pending, though specific charges are currently unknown. So again, it's a shorter segment, but it makes our segment of hope for obvious reasons. A child goes missing, she's gone for, a few weeks now, and despite all the statistics, she does come home. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.